You didn't say anything. Someone said something that landed wrong, maybe a dismissal disguised as a joke, maybe a silence that lasted a beat too long, maybe a look that communicated exactly what their words were careful not to. And you felt it, clearly, the way you feel a temperature change before anyone else notices it. But you didn't say anything. You nodded, maybe, or you smiled in that specific way, not warm, not cold, just present. That's it. Functional. The social equivalent of a screensaver. And then you went quiet. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone would notice or ask about, just inward, like a door that closes without a sound. And later, maybe that night, maybe in the shower, maybe at 2 a.m. when the room was too still, you replayed it. Not because you wanted to, but because something in you needed to understand what just happened, why it hurt the way it did, why you didn't say so. Here's what I want to explore today. Not the silence itself, but what lives inside it. Because here's the thing most people misread about people who go quiet when they're hurt. They assume it's maturity, self-control, emotional regulation, and sometimes, yes, it is. But sometimes, more often than we admit, the quiet isn't peace, it's protection. And there's a difference. A quiet, significant, important difference that most people, including the quiet person themselves, have never quite put into words. This is what I want to sit with. Think about what happens in the body the moment something hurts and you choose, or maybe don't even choose, it just happens, not to say so. There's a brief moment of internal noise, a sharp internal reaction, almost like a system alert. Something in you recognizes, this matters, this affected me. And then, almost immediately, something else kicks in, a kind of override, an assessment faster than conscious thought that calculates whether expressing this is safe, whether it will be heard, whether it will change anything, whether the cost of speaking is worth the uncertainty of the response. And for many people, the calculation comes back, probably not. So the silence isn't emptiness, it's the result of a very fast, very practiced internal process that's been refined over years, sometimes decades, of learning what happens when you do say something. Researchers who study attachment and emotional development talk about something called affect regulation, basically how we learn to manage our emotional states. And one of the key findings is that we don't learn this in a vacuum. We learn it in relationship to other people, specifically to the people who were supposed to respond to us when we were young. When a child expresses pain, cries, protests, reaches out, and the response is consistent, warm, and attuned, something gets encoded. Expression leads to connection. Vulnerability is safe. But when the response is dismissive, unpredictable, irritated, or absent, something else gets encoded, something quieter, something that says, this part of you is better kept inside. John Bowlby, who built much of the foundation of attachment theory, described this as the child learning to deactivate attachment needs, to suppress, minimize, or hide emotional signals, because expressing them doesn't produce the response they're designed to produce. It's not a moral failing, it's not weakness, it's adaptation. The nervous system finding a way to survive an environment where full emotional expression isn't welcomed. And here's the part that matters. Those adaptations don't disappear when you grow up. They become fluent, they become automatic, they become you, or at least a version of you that's very good at going quiet. But here's where something interesting happens. Because the people who've learned to go quiet, they're often the most emotionally perceptive people in a room. They notice things, small things, the shift in someone's tone, the word chosen carefully, the compliment that has a faint edge to it, the way someone looks away at a specific moment. They notice because they had to. Noticing, reading the room, tracking emotional atmospheres, detecting subtle changes, that was survival. That was how you knew what was coming. That was how you protected yourself before protection became necessary. And so, paradoxically, the people who express the least are often the ones feeling the most. They've just learned, deeply, wordlessly, over years, that feeling and expressing are not the same thing, and that expressing can sometimes make things worse. Here's the uncomfortable part. That learning, that protective quiet, it doesn't only operate in the original environment where it made sense. It follows you into friendships, into relationships, into workplaces, into moments where the people present are actually safe, where expression would be met with care. But the nervous system doesn't always know that yet. And so, sometimes the person who goes quiet isn't going quiet because they don't trust you. They're going quiet because some older part of them, a part that formed before they had language for any of this, hasn't yet been given enough evidence that this time is different. This is what makes it so quietly painful, not just for the person experiencing it, but for the people around them who can feel the distance, who can sense that something is happening beneath the surface, but can't quite reach it. The quiet person isn't always trying to punish you with their silence. They might genuinely not know how to do anything else right now. And over time, this changes something. Because here's what happens when you consistently compress your pain rather than express it. It doesn't disappear. Emotion is information. It's metabolic in a sense. It moves through the body and the mind. It needs somewhere to go. When it's consistently redirected inward, it doesn't stop existing, it transforms. Sometimes it becomes hypervigilance, a constant, low-level scanning of social environments for signs of the next hurt, because the last one wasn't processed before the next arrived. Sometimes it becomes a kind of chronic low-grade sadness that doesn't attach to any one thing, just a steady background weight that's hard to explain because you've been so practiced at not explaining it. And sometimes, and this is the one worth pausing on, it becomes a profound aloneness. Not loneliness in the social sense, you can be surrounded by people, but a specific aloneness that comes from knowing that even now, even here, even with people who care about you, there is a part of your inner life that goes unseen. Not because they don't want to see it, but because you've never shown it to them. But here's the quiet realization I want to leave you with. The silence wasn't a mistake. At some point, in some context, in some relationship or environment, it was the most intelligent response available to you. It kept something intact. It kept you intact. The question, and it's not a question with an easy answer, is whether it's still doing that work now, or whether it's become so automatic, so reflexive, so practiced, that it's protecting you from things that no longer need protecting against. Because the same capacity that allowed you to survive in environments where expression wasn't safe, that same sensitivity, that same emotional attunement, that same depth of inner life, that's not something to be fixed. That's something extraordinary, actually. The problem was never that you felt things deeply. The problem was that you were in places, with people, in moments where that depth wasn't something you could afford to show. And learning, slowly, carefully, with people who've actually earned it, that you can show it now, that's not weakness. It's not naive. It's the most quietly courageous thing some people will ever do. You didn't say anything. But maybe, somewhere in the place where you keep what doesn't get said, you recognized something in all of this. A description of something you've lived but never quite heard articulated. If this sat with you in a way that felt personal, take your time with it. These things don't resolve in 8 minutes. They unfold slowly, across conversations you choose to have, with people you slowly learn to trust, in moments when you decide, despite everything, to let yourself be a little more seen. If you want to keep exploring this kind of psychology, the quiet patterns, the hidden emotional logic, the things people feel but rarely say, there's more of it here. We go slowly, we go carefully, and we never oversimplify what isn't simple.